Ooh, what's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy, and this is the Nerdy review of Masters of the Universe Revelation, the new animated series. The first half of season 1 dropped on Netflix yesterday. I got to watch it all. I'm happy to share my thoughts with you. I think that I'm gonna be a little controversial here because I liked it, and I think the Internet isn't gonna love that. So let's get into it. We get Nerdy Nightly. Thought we'd share it with you. That is right. Welcome back to the channel for another review, this time for an animated show, a continuation of a show that I loved as a child. I don't know if you can tell, but I was too non-existent to watch He-Man when it was originally on the air from 1983 to 1985. However, this show and these toys were a huge, huge part of my childhood. I absolutely loved the figures growing up in the 90s, watching the revival in 2002, watching, the reruns of the original series. And I have always really just had an affinity for He-Man. Now, part of that is because when I was a kid, I thought that this was a spin-off of Star Wars. And I was under the impression that this was I was like 5, okay? I thought that He-Man just was in the universe of Star Wars and Eternia was a planet and that Luke Skywalker might show up someday. And he never did. And then I grew up and I found out that it was its own thing. And, despite that, I still loved it. And so when I heard that Kevin Smith, a director whose oeuvre I've always really enjoyed, I love Tusks, I love yoga hosers. It's fun. It is what it is, but it's fun. But I really love Clerks. I really love Dogma, and I really love Chasing Amy. I think that Kevin Smith has made some really great stuff, and I've always really been entertained. I've gone to see his live shows. I'm a fan of the man, is what I'm saying. And it has been very interesting ever since this show dropped to see how the conversation has really been about what Kevin Smith said and when he said it, and not about the show. And I want to separate those two things because I think that the discourse around the show is getting really lost in what Kevin Smith said, in the marketing. And we were marketed this one thing and the show is this other thing. And I want to be really clear about those two things being separate. Because as I said, you might have seen it on Twitter. I tweeted, I said Kevin Smith lied. I didn't say that. I said Kevin Smith misled us. Because he did. He said that the show was all about He-Man. It's not. He-Man is not the main character. That's not a spoiler. It happens really early. What that means, we'll do some spoilers at the end of this video and we'll talk about that. But Teela is the main character of most of the episodes that we've seen. It's hard to talk about without talking about spoilers. And so Kevin Smith was not necessarily telling the truth. And people are very upset about that. And they're so upset about that they're missing the fact that this show is very good. And they're so upset about what was said in an interview or what was tweeted that they're missing that there's a really good show here. There's a really adult He-Man show here. There is a complicated and more deep show than the one that I watched in the 90s, than the reboot that I watched in 2002, and certainly deeper than the movie that we all watched. There is a legitimate character study going on with the characters of He-Man, which is not of Masters of the Universe, I should say. It's not something I ever expected from this world. And yet now that I have it, I love it. Now that I have it, I want part 2. Because they're treating these characters seriously. They're treating these characters as if their actions have consequences. And this is a world, Eternia is a world where the actions of the characters have never had any consequences. Where the lies, where the deceit, where all of those things were just part of the story. And next week we're going to reset and it's going to be the same thing. And that was how we did things in the 80s. That was the storytelling of the 80s. But we've all grown up a little bit. I think that, you could say that this is a post 9/11 world and content, media grew up post 9/11. It's a fact. There are books written about it. We know that happened. And our animated shows have grown up a little bit. We tell more complicated stories with animated shows now. We have adult animation. And this show feels like it isn't written really for kids. I don't know necessarily that this is a children's show. This show was written for people my age, people older than me, who watched He-Man when they were kids and are now grown, and who still loved He-Man. This is a very nostalgic show for the world of He-Man. And there are people, I've seen the backlash against that. I've seen people say, well, this character dies, or this character isn't in this position anymore. And it's because the world is growing. The world is becoming more complex. And if you don't want that to happen, if you want a show where it resets every week, where everything's okay at the end of 30 minutes, this isn't the show for you. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're not getting what you want. I get that. I really do. I like that style of show. It's fun. It's easy. It doesn't ask anything of you. But this show asks a little bit of you. It does. It asks you to go into the personal feelings that these characters have of one another, and betrayal, and real genuine loss. And it asks you to feel things with these characters in a way that the original He-Man show never would have. It never would have gone that deep. It never would have gone that mature. And it's weird to exist in this part of this show, knowing so much about the original and loving the original so much, but having grown up myself and living in a different world myself, and loving art in a different way now, and seeing this and going, oh, this is the show for this phase of my life. And realizing that there is more complicated aspects to war and to combat, and to, you know, the bonds that we forge through tragedy and through trauma, and how we come out the other side of those and keep fighting. And this is a story of how to get back in the fight when you're kind of pushed to the brink. And I love that. Masters of the Universe, the colon is revelation. There's revelations throughout every episode of this. It is a constant revelation. It is such an appropriate title, because this first 5 episodes is all about revelations, but not just revealing them for us, the audience. Not just a twist. Not just like Shyamalan at the end of the movie revealing that the character could see dead people the entire time. No, this is revelations for the characters, and it has consequences on the way that they behave through the rest of the series. And that's a little bit more complicated than I think people want. I think people want He-Man to kick ass and to go home and have a feast at the end. And that's not this show. But this show's really good. It's fun. The animation is stunning. The combat in He-Man finally looks like the combat that I imagined when I was playing with action figures as a child. Because the combat on the original He-Man show is what it is. The animation just wasn't there. There was only so much that they could do because of ratings and because of boards and because of, you know, it was a complicated time to make content for children. The floodgates are open on this. The combat is violent. There's stabbings. There's, you know, it's still kid-friendly, I would say. There's no blood, and I think they get around that pretty well. But the combat is cool. The ships are cool. The character designs are wonderful. Even characters that have sillier designs, that every line and every single frame of the animation is so dedicated to making even the silliest characters look like they took very serious care of them. But He-Man isn't the lead of it. And so I don't know if you're going to like this. I did. I really did. I loved it. I loved it. And I don't care that Kevin Smith said that it was all about He-Man. In a way it is. It is. You know, it's all about him. It's just not his story for the first 5 episodes. I think the next 5 will very much feature him more. But I also don't know that we'll ever see him be He-Man again in it. I don't know what Adam's going to do in the rest of the show. I don't know. I don't know what part he'll play in it. And I don't want to give up spoilers, so I don't want to say where things are, you know? I don't know what part Teela's going to play in the rest of this. I don't know what part She-Ra might play in the rest of this. I don't know what part Skeletor might play in the rest of this. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered in the show. And there's a lot of questions about relationships and about character and about arc that have to be answered. But the setup is all there for them. They've teed it up. Part 2 has been teed up. Everyone is in a place where there is something interesting around the corner for them. And it is not a typical He-Man story. It is an adult He-Man story. I get that. It is an adult Masters of the Universe story. I get that. It is a story that has a female lead, and I get that that is tough for some people. I see people online complaining that Teela's angry. That she's angry a lot in the show. Baffling. Of course she is. When you see what she goes through, of course she's angry. Why wouldn't she be? I'd be furious. And I don't know. We'll get into it when we get into spoilers. We'll get into that when we get into spoilers in a moment. Before we do, though, I do want to call out how superb the voice acting on the show is. Mark Hamill's Skeletor is my childhood. I immediately flash back. There are some very similar tones and things to his Joker from the animated series, and it was such a joy, you know, to dive back to that voice and to into my childhood and just have it presented to me again. Every time Mark Hamill voices anything, it just is so, it's like warmth, and you know, he does such a good job. I think Sarah Michelle Gellar as Tila is fantastic. I think Chris Wood as both versions of He-Man brings a lot of depth to that character that could be a little bit cardboardy. He-Man's always been a bit cardboardy, you know, because he's so and I think Chris Wood brings a lot of depth to that and separates the voices of those two characters, because Adam and He-Man are different characters. He separates those voices so well. Lena Headey as Evelyn is fantastic. Tiffany Smith as Adara, I think her name is. She's great. The voice cast. The Onion Knight from Game of Thrones. Oh no, I'm gonna forget his name. As Man at Arms, great. Man at Arms gets some banger fights in this. They really, like, Man at Arms. They set him up as this, like, as the combatant in the show. He gets the best fights. Man at Arms, and he also gets some really cool emotional stuff. They really give Man at Arms both. More than other characters. I think even more than Tila. I think Man at Arms might have the best actual, like, arc in the first part of the show. And we get to see a lot of different shades of him. And it's Ian. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to Google it really quick while I'm filming this. I don't even think I'm going to edit this. I'm just going to put it. Just going to put this all in. He's so good. I love that I just call him the Onion Knight. I'm not gonna find it. I'm not gonna find it. It doesn't matter. You know who he is. Someone just comment in below if you know who he is. The voice acting's great. The casting of the show is fantastic. I liked it. I liked these 5 episodes a lot. I wish we'd gotten all 10 at once, but I do understand why they wanted to have the break here where the cliffhanger hits. I understand. It is a nice, you know, cliffhanger moment leading into this big part 2. Although I will say, not knowing when part 2 drops is a little frustrating right now, because it better be this year. It better be like October, November. Because if it's 2022, if we have to wait till 2022 for the rest of the story, I'm going to be like, no, don't do this to me. If you're upset at Kevin Smith, that's fine. I get it. I don't really, but I get it. If you don't like the show because of what Kevin Smith said, I don't know what to tell you. What Kevin Smith said in an interview, what Kevin Smith tweeted, it doesn't affect the quality of the show. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. That has nothing to do with the quality of the show. And if you are adamant that it does, then I don't know how you watch things. I don't know how to understand how you sit down and watch content. If the interview matters that much to you, I can't relate to you. Put that aside. Go into the show not knowing what's going on and go on the adventure with these characters. That's the joy of these things. That's the joy of art and cinema. But if you're going to go into it with expectations, if you're going to go into it already knowing what you want and being disappointed if you don't get that exact thing, I don't know how to tell you I don't know how to recommend things for you. I don't know how to review things for you specifically, because your enjoyment is your expectations. Not the show, not the art, not the creativity, not the surprise. You're hamstringing yourself before you even press play, and I don't know why you would do that. I also think that the people who do that aren't going to make it to this point in the video, and they're already going to be writing mean things about me down below or on Twitter because I liked something that people put time and energy into. And that's weird. It's a weird part of the internet, and I don't know how we got here. But it feels like everything that comes out, this is the conversation that we have. I talk with people about The Last Jedi, for instance, and people are like, well, Mark Hamill said in this interview, and I'm like, I don't care. That's not the movie. That's not in the movie. I don't care what he said in an interview. That has no bearing on the quality of the film to me. Oh, Ryan Johnson tweeted this on May. I don't care. It's not in the film. Yes, Kevin Smith said that this was all about He-Man, and it is, from a certain point of view. It's just not all about Adam and He-Man up front and center at all times. It's about He-Man and the hole that he leaves because of secrets. It's about the consequences of secrets and the consequences of actions. And that is so much more interesting than the world resetting every 30 minutes so that we can just do the same thing all over again. The show's quite good. I hope that you watch it. I hope that you go into it without worrying too much about tweets, about press releases. Those things aren't art. They're not important. The show's important. And this is a pretty good one. I quite like it. I recommend it. I'm going to go into some spoilers. If you're going to leave, follow us over on Twitch. I'm over at twitch.tv/nerdynightly. My wife's over at twitch.tv/ClarisDracaris. Check out other reviews on the channel. We do have reviews. We have a spoiler chat and a non-spoiler review for Snake Eyes from yesterday. So go check those out. And I'll be back Monday morning with the nightly morning show at 10:30 a.m. Claris and I on the couch will be talking about news. We'll probably be talking about numbers, some box office, how things did, some announcements. It's going to be a good time. Join us over there. That's live over on Twitch. And until next time, do something nerdy tonight or stick around for these spoiler chat time. All right. Are they gone? Are the people who have not yet watched the show gone? Let's talk spoilers. Adam, He-Man, he dies. He dies right away. They just kill him off. It's brutal. And it's great. People are so upset about this. And it's so good. I'm going to say something that might be slightly controversial. As a man who loves He-Man, He-Man's boring. He's really boring. He's the most powerful person. As soon as he calls down the power, he can do anything. So how do you make a show about him where things matter, right? They kill him. Not really kill him. They have him choose to sacrifice himself for Eternia, which is like the greatest finale arc that you can have. And interestingly, also the finale arc that Luke Skywalker has at the end of Last Jedi. And there's reasons why I'm drawing comparisons between those two things, as you can tell. They kill him off. And then Teela finds out that she is the one person closest to Adam who has been lied to about everything other than his father, right? And it devastates her. And the people online who are saying, well, why is she so mad the whole time? She's devastated and has every right to be. If I fought side by side with someone for years and they lied to me the entire time, I would want to rain hellfire upon them. And then died on me? If my partner lied to me the entire time and then died, and I found out the secret after they died, I would be inconsolable. I would do exactly what she did. I felt so much empathy for her in that moment. And throughout a lot of this series, her anger is so justified. And I felt it with her. It's betrayal. And it's fantastic. And Sarah Michelle Gellar brings it. My girl, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Look, I know we don't talk about the creator of that show. But I still love that show. That show still was arguably my favorite live-action show in my childhood. And Sarah Michelle Gellar means something to me. And to get my girl, Buffy, to be the lead of a great show like this, in the nerd space, kicking butt, taking names, it was a joy to me. Hearing her voice coming out of Teela's mouth, and having her see the arc that she goes through, and the action sequences that she has, it just brought me so much joy. She's the perfect cast for Teela. I thought she absolutely crushed the role. She's so great. And I love Sarah Michelle Gellar. I really do. And I love what they did with Teela. I love the way that she walked away. And I love how hard everyone pulled her back. I loved that Cringer is ultimately the person that gets her back. And it's great. Cringer has grown in his time away from Adam and He-Man. He has truly had an arc. You can tell in his scene where he's pulling her back in. He's a new battle cat. You know what I mean? Orko dies. That's the spoiler that people are upset about. They killed Orko. And they did it in a moment where Orko gets to have a hero moment, where Orko matters. And it's great. It's fantastic. It's character-driven sacrifice. These are the arcs. These are the big, epic, huge arcs that I always wanted from He-Man, because we get it from other media, right? We get it in Star Wars. We get the big sacrifice moment. We get the big hero moment in all of these other things, and in He-Man we never did because they had to all be around next week so that their toys kept selling. And the fact that they killed off He-Man in episode 1, and I was like, well, that's the one that they get. He'll come back. No one else is going to die. Then they kill off Orko 3 episodes later. It's fantastic. Orko dies, holding off death itself. You don't get bigger stakes than that. And people are like upset. They're like, well, how could you kill Orko? What do you mean? They gave him the greatest arc he could possibly have. We got to see him go. We got to see him accept the fool within himself. And then accept that even a fool can have power, and then use that power to hold back death itself. He got to be Gandalf fighting off the Balrog on the bridge. He got to have his full Gandalf moment, and people are upset that they did that? That they gave Orko the great, supreme wizard death that a character like that deserves? What is there to be upset about? What, that he doesn't come back the next episode? That's life. You have to accept that that's life. People die. But not everybody gets to go out making sure that their friends make it out of hell alive to save the universe. That is the kind of epic storytelling you do not get every character. They don't always get to have, and he gets it here. They gave that to Orko, and it was fantastic, and I was sad. I was brokenhearted over it. And people are upset that Orko got that arc? How? What do you want for him? You want him to just make dumb jokes for 10 episodes? You want him to just sit in the background and just be the fool? Why? What does that give you? We got the epic stakes that I always dreamt He-Man would have, and it's only the first 5 episodes. He-Man dies. And then chooses. He-Man chooses. Adam, sorry, he's not He-Man when he does this. He chooses to come back from heaven, knowing that it might mean he cannot go back to heaven. He gives up his place in paradise to go back and save Eternia. And you're telling me there's no strong male characters in this show? There is no decision that you could place in front of your character that is higher stakes than you are leaving heaven and you might never be able to come back. There isn't a bigger arc. There isn't a bigger story than that. You can't find one. You could not convince me of a more meaningful decision than you either leave heaven and never come back to help your friends, and you just end up dirt, as they say in the show, or you stay in paradise forever. You already earned your place in paradise. You already sacrificed for yourself for this world once. How much more do they deserve? And Adam goes, man, it's not even a choice. He doesn't even consider it. Because that's the kind of person that he is. He wields the sword of Grayskull for his whole life, defending the realm of Eternia, and then he dies in sacrifice for that. And when he is given the choice to go back or enjoy the fruits of his labor, he says, my labor is not over. Even if it means I never get to enjoy the fruits again. Even if it means I am stuck dirt for eternity, I will have given my life again for Eternia. There is no greater storyline that you could give a character than that. And I am hearing on the internet that there are no strong male characters in the show, and I am losing my mind. In what world? Adam is given the single greatest decision a character can have, and he makes the right choice. He makes the hard choice. And he does it without thinking, without worrying, without any of it. He leans in to being a hero, not because he's strong, not because he has the sword, not because he's He-Man, but because he's Adam. In that moment, we get to see the character as he truly is at his very core, and it is absolutely beautiful. And I read tweets where they say that there are no strong male characters on this show, and I am lost. I'm utterly lost. I don't understand. There's no greater call to action than that. I don't know that I could make the same choice. I don't know that I'm strong enough to make that choice. And I live in awe of that choice. And it's a cartoon. It's an animated cartoon that deals with things that I'll never have to deal with, obviously, but the things that I can't imagine dealing with. that I don't think I'm strong enough to deal with, and yet people are trying to tell me that that is not a strong male character, and I don't know what strength is then. If sacrificing yourself for your people is not strength, then I don't know what is. If willingly leaving heaven for your people is not strength, I don't know what is. What, he didn't kick enough? What, he didn't cut off enough heads? Is that the only definition of strength? Is that the value of man? Is just violence? I don't think so. I think that our strength and our value is our decisions. It's our actions. And I don't think there's a greater action than the one that he makes at the end of the show. And so I get lost in this conversation because I can't relate to people who don't understand the stakes of that decision, who call that decision a weak decision. Because I don't understand what they value. If sacrificing yourself for others isn't the greatest sacrifice, literally the biblical sacrifice that Jesus made, I don't know what your value system is. I don't know what you consider to be strength. I don't know. I felt lost in that. I really did. It was really it's a conversation that I don't know how to have. I think this show is absolutely more than the sum of its parts. It is truly fantastic, and if you have not seen it and you've watched through this, it's moving. It's really moving, and I hope that you do, because it's so good. Also, the whole strong male characters thing. I saw something online about people saying that like Man of Arms is neutered in the show, and just watch the third episode of this and tell me that he's neutered. He's amazing, and I think that it's people saying that he's neutered because he apologizes to Tila, essentially his daughter, for lying to her, and I'm like, well, if a man can't apologize for lying to his own daughter without being weak, you and I cannot be friends. I'm just going to be very honest. If apologizing when you've done something wrong, when you've hurt someone else, is weakness in your eyes, then you and I cannot be friends. Partially because I'm Canadian and I apologize for everything, but also because I believe that acknowledging when you have hurt someone is fundamental to being a good human being. It's not about strength and weakness. It's not about... It's just about kindness. Humanity. Man at Arms being able to kick that much ass and show that much humanity, that's strength. And if you don't see that as strength, then you and I just fundamentally see humanity differently, and I don't know how to reconcile that. Did Kevin Smith lie? Yes. Yeah, he did. It's marketing. It's all lies. Is this show good? Yeah, it's really good. It's better than I ever expected. It's the He-Man show I wanted, but didn't know that I wanted, because I never would have expected anyone to write a He-Man show like this. I never expected anyone to care this much about these characters, and to put the time into making their world feel real. Things matter now in Eternia, and that is incredible. God, I like this show a lot. I liked it a lot. I cannot wait for part 2. I hope we just keep getting more of this. If they continue to put this much effort and this much care into the show, I'll never stop watching it. This was fantastic. It really was. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. I'm going to end the video here. I could talk about this for hours, but I'm by myself. Maybe I'll try and find some other He-Man fans, and I'll sit down and put together a longer episode, maybe a podcast type deal. I am over on the Twitter, on the Facebook, on everything. Just follow @NerdyNightly. but especially follow us over at Twitch, because that's where I'm doing the Nerdy Lock, a 35 game, every single Pokemon game ever released, including those upcoming Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl games. We're doing a hardcore Nuzlocke of the whole series. We are 15 games done. We have 20 to go. That's a lot, but we're currently doing Heart Gold, and so check that out over at twitch.tv/nerdynightly. And as always, do something nerdy tonight.